Today on The Young and the Restless, Audra vents to Nate about Kyle, Phyllis urges Summer to calm down, and Billy wants answers from Chelsea. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. When Audra walks into Victor's office at Newman, he welcomes her back. She tells him that the trip to Paris was quite the whirlwind, and she has lots of updates. She's surprised that he asked to meet there given that his involvement in Glissade is still a secret. He starts quizzing her about whether she did anything to provoke Summer in the custody fight. Kyle walks in, wanting an answer about that as well. She claims she's done nothing to provoke Summer. Kyle says his ex thinks Audra is a dangerous influence, protesting that she's never even met Harrison. Audra declares this is not her problem. Victor announces they should all move on. When Audra claims she's eager to explain her trip, Kyle asks if she was going to fill Victor in on it without him. She thought Kyle would be confused by the minutiae. They sit, and she explains everything that she took care of. Kyle points out that most of what she handled was stuff that was already sorted out in New York. Since she's back, Victor suggests they plan a launch party. Audra wants them to portray themselves as dynamic and flashy, but Kyle thinks they need to seem elegant and sophisticated. They start bickering about optics, and she insists they need to show they are nothing like Jabot. Seeing the tension between them, Victor orders them to figure it out or face the consequences. He's given them a tremendous opportunity and suggests they not squander it. Kyle asks to speak to Victor alone about the custody suit. Suspicious, Audra leaves them alone. Immediately, Kyle promises that he has her handled. Victor hopes he's not going to regret hiring him. That Abbott explains that he had tried hard to smooth things over with Summer and retain joint custody. She refused unless he cuts Audra out of his life completely. He is clear that this was Summer's idea, not his. She's determined to keep Audra out of his life and away from Harrison. Victor suggests that he could use an ally at a time like this. Audra meets with Nate in the jazz lounge and declares she has returned in triumph. He kisses her and says he's much better now that she's here. He was tempted to fly over to Paris and surprise her. She reminds him they agreed to keep things casual. He assures her he's respecting her boundaries. Audra brags about how on fire she was and how she didn't need Kyle at all. She wishes the owner of Glissade would let her get rid of him. She's sure that Kyle is actively looking to sabotage her. He's currently speaking to the owner without her present. Nate urges her to play this smart. Even if Kyle plans to chip away at her power, she needs to keep a cool head. Audra agrees to that. There's something she needs from Nate urgently. An early dinner. Nate and Audra go to the dining room of the athletic club. She asks what it would look like if they had a relationship. He says they would have meals like this, discuss their days, and he would be there for her. That sounds like what they've been doing, and she's been enjoying it. Oh, she says as Kyle walks in. Nate suggests they ignore him, but he walks over. Audra wants to know what he talked about with their boss. How badly did you throw me under the bus this time? She asks. Summer meets with her mother at society. Phyllis can see she's frazzled. Her daughter admits that Chance talked her down, but then she was up all night worrying. Now she trusts Kyle even less than before. She said that she met with Kyle after Victor pushed him to compromise. For a second, she thought she had the upper hand, but Kyle just wanted to keep joint custody. Her mom says he's put her through so much. Summer blames her ex for everything. If he wants to make things better, he needs to cut all ties with Audra for good. Phyllis thinks it's great that she is stepping up for herself, but is this demand a bluff? Realistically, she doesn't think that Kyle can do that. He's out at Jabot and can't walk away from Glissade. Summer dismisses it as his problem. He acted like she was trying to control his life, and she can't understand why. She also can't understand why he's so attached to working with that woman. Audra needs to be far out of his orbit and away from Harrison. Phyllis asks if it would bother her if Kyle and Audra were together again. Is her anger about Harrison or that? Summer gets defensive at any suggestion that she's jealous. She tells her mom this is getting way off track, but Phyllis says no one is thrilled that their ex has moved on. Summer insists she doesn't want him back. She's not like her and won't be doing anything rash. Her mom still thinks the Audra thing is a pretty big ask and seems more like a test about his lingering feelings for her. This is annoying Summer, and she's starting to think telling anyone about this is pointless. Her mom urges her not to talk to Chance about this, but she says he's been helpful. Seeing how stressed out Summer is, Phyllis worries about the toll this is taking. She urges her to take a step back and de-escalate. Maybe not force Kyle's hand about Audra. Summer decides this conversation is over and she needs to leave so she can think alone. When Victor walks in, Phyllis rushes over to him. She knows that he spoke to Kyle about the custody situation. She hopes that he is not enlisting her daughter in some scheme. If you have, you are going to have to go through me, she warns. He chuckles, telling her she's being ridiculous. He's only concerned about his family's well-being. She wants to make sure her daughter hasn't entered into some devil's bargain. She also wants to know what he has been saying to Kyle. Pushing past her, he says this is none of her business. In Chancellor Park, Chelsea and Adam talk about the tension and guilt they are feeling from that one night as Billy and Sally approach. Overhearing them, they step back and listen until Connor calls out to them. His startled parents turn around and see their partners. They talk about how Connor has been recovering since he got home. He's tired and wants to go home. His parents want to take him. Chelsea and Adam awkwardly tell their partners they will see them later and walk off with their son. Sally and Billy confirm that they both overheard the same thing. She's starting to wonder if he was right and if something really did happen between Chesley and Adam in Baltimore. They sit, and she suggests that maybe they heard things out of context. As she rambles through excuses, she eventually admits that something could be going on. Billy isn't sure anymore. He doesn't want to jump to conclusions until he gets concrete answers from Chelsea. She's not sure that will happen. Chelsea and Adam go to the Crimson Lights patio after dropping Connor off at her place. She worries that Billy and Sally may have heard what they said. They looked hurt when they saw them. He urges her to take a breath, but her heart is in her throat and she has a bad feeling. Adam tells her she can just tell Billy his suspicions are wrong. She's sure he won't drop this. Chelsea thought she could block that night out, but she's not sure she can do this anymore. She doesn't want to spin this. He urges her to use the excuse they already have. They just feel guilty about their behavior. She thinks it's wrong to use their son to prop up this story. Besides, it's too late. Adam thinks they need to drop this and focus on their son. I can't, it's all too much, she blurts. He has to rest his head on the table. Billy walks in and announces he needs to speak to her privately. Chelsea tells Adam to go home to Sally. Once he exits, Billy sits and stops Chelsea from floundering through an explanation. He doesn't want a confrontation. He knows he offered to back off, but he heard her in the park and can't let go of what he heard about that night. It's clear that whatever happened is eating her up and haunting her. Whatever it is, she needs to tell him. She wipes away a tear. In the penthouse, Sally paces until Adam arrives. They have some small talk about his day with Connor. He says it feels like things are getting back to somewhat normal. When he asks if she's okay, she urges him to be honest with her. Next week on The Young and the Restless, Sally asks Adam if he slept with Chelsea.